Thank you, Chair Murray, and thank you to all the witnesses. I'm going to ask a question about teacher recruitment, teacher retention, and I want to hear from all of you. Before I do, Chair Murray, I just wanted to recount something that I heard not long ago, and it's been a tough challenge for parents and teachers and school board members. I've had some school boards in Virginia, and almost all of our school board members are parents of kids in the system or grandparents, maybe former teachers. They're deeply connected to education issues. Many of them have kids in the system right now, and they're very poorly paid. And I had a school board member at one of my jurisdictions where there has been really volatile public meetings choose not to run again. And I asked her why, and her answer stopped me absolutely dead in my tracks. She said, my salary would not pay for a funeral. She and her children have received death threats over decisions that they've been grappling with, the school board members, and it's been a tough time, and people are stressed. I get that. But I worry about people choosing other lines of work because of a perception that, wow, this is a job that's always been tough, and now I got to grapple with physical security issues, whether it's a shooter in a classroom or somebody who's putting death threats on my email because of a decision that the school board might make. Here's the question I wanted to ask. Ms. Wall talked about in her school, the school that her oldest son is connected with, a speech therapist leaving mid-year and then wasn't replaced till the end of the year. And as I talk to superintendents, they really sing the blues to me about teacher shortages and teacher retention, and particularly about any teacher in the special ed space. So could each of the four of you, from kind of the research standpoint, a state system, a local high school, and parent, just share with the committee what are things we ought to be thinking about in terms of attracting and retaining teachers?
I'm happy to quickly weigh in, and thank you for the question, Senator Kaine. I think that we do need to be concerned generally with the desirability of the teaching profession given everything that's going on in schools. But I also think that it's very important not to talk about teachers generically, because what we know about the teacher labor market is that the degree of staffing challenge varies a great deal based on geography. It varies a great deal based on teacher specialization. So you mentioned special education teachers, and that is an area where I think that it is much more challenging to staff classrooms than it is to staff, for instance, elementary education classrooms. And it is tougher to staff classrooms in schools that are serving disproportionately disadvantaged or historically marginalized students. So my view, and this is perhaps not surprising as I'm a labor economist, is that we ought to be focusing resources in the areas where there's more acute need. And so that would be, again, the places where staffing challenges are more extreme. And I do think that additional pay and retention incentives do make a difference in terms of the likelihood that we're going to attract people into the profession.
Excellent. Could I ask Commissioner Russell Tucker? I would love to hear from everybody before my time expires. Commissioner Russell Tucker.
Thank you, Senator. And certainly it was an area of extreme focus for us, as you can well imagine, with schools open, trying to address the staffing needs, helping our districts address the staffing needs. Some of the things we've done with our state board, that we've looked at flexibilities around certifications, and I think those are things we need to continue to look at. And long term, so there's a short term, but long term, how do we continue to encourage folks to come into the profession, which is so important? And that's work that we have to continue to do together, and not without hearing from the teachers themselves. What is those things that make the environment much more attractive to come into, starting with students as well?
Mr. Russell, what are those things that make the environment more attractive? So you're well positioned to answer that question.
Yes, thank you so much. Number one, the value placed upon teachers have been lost, that respect. Once upon a time, teachers used to be the pillar of a community. Now that's no longer there. The respect of teachers in regards to their expertise is taken for granted. So therefore, there's many things that we can do in order to increase. Number one, as I mentioned in my testimony earlier, is pay. They have to be compensated. It's not an attractive profession because of that. And I think number two, as I said earlier, that teachers must be a voice in regards to policies and legislation.
Chair Murray, could I ask if Ms. Wall could respond briefly? Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you, Senator. I spoke to a lot of Carter's special education teachers leading up to today. Sadly, 2 of them are leaving Carter's school, and I think it's because, as Mr. Russell touched on, pay is obviously a huge concern of theirs, and also they're just stretched too thin. I mean, special education teachers have to educate the children, but yet they also have to handle the case management, which is a lot of paperwork and meetings, and that eats up a lot of their time, and they're not able to work with the children, which is their passion, and that should be the number one thing that they're working on is the children and their education, and there's just not enough time for them to be able to do that.
Great. Thank you so much. Thanks, Chair Murray.
Thank you. Senator Tuberville.